They say there may be intelligent life on Pluto because NASA received a message from the dwarf planet that said, "Hey, NASA, your mom thought I was big enough." 5, 4, 3. Hey there, Trekkers, and welcome to another episode of Trek Tonight. We are thrilled tonight to have our good buddy Cliff Diamond here. Hey, Cliff, how you doing?
Oh, good to be back.
Yeah, good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while.
Well, I've been here and there.
You've been traveling
the world.
Yes.
And other places.
You're a traveler.
That's enough.
And of course, as always, Leo Byrne-Genesek. Leo, how are you?
Walking and talking.
So what's going on, guys? Anything new and interesting? Oh, wait, before we get into all that, I do want to hang on. I do want to warn everyone that we are going to be talking about the episode Surrender, which is episode 8 of season 3. If you haven't seen it, there will be spoilers, and you may want to turn us off and go watch the episode and then come back, because we're going to get into all kinds of details. So at any rate, anything new, Cliff, since we saw you last time?
Oh my! Well, where do I start? The Earth cooled.
Right. Yeah.
Oh gosh, just
this is how I find out.
Pardon me?
Sorry, go on.
So, no, same old stuff, just living the life, trying to survive like everybody else is these days.
Yep.
I'm pumped for the return of A Strange New Worlds. I guess that's my
then
I'm really excited, because that was my favorite of the new Star Trek shows.
Right.
And so glad to hear that'll be back, and actually renewed for a third season.
Yeah,
sight unseen, as they say.
Well, we will definitely have to have you back when we do our show on that, because that's going to be a lot. That starts in is it June 15th? I think
June 15th. Yes.
Yeah.
Now is Discovery before that?
No, Discovery won't be coming out till next year.
Yeah.
Oh, darn.
Yeah. There.
Hey,
we got a Vulcan salute from Gina.
Oh,
hey, Gina.
How are you?
Hello, Gina, the lovely Gina.
There you are. So at any rate, maybe we should just get right into it, because this was a lot going on in this episode. I thought an excellent episode. Any first impressions? I'm going to go with Cliff, since he's our guest.
Well, I'm gonna up front. I'm gonna say, you forgive me if I start quoting other episodes, because I've binged all these. I was traveling, so I've had to catch up. So I'm a little blurry about which ones are which. But
okay.
I'm liking this season a little bit more as it's gone on. I found the first half of it, I felt like we were going over so much old ground that has been done. Now, there's been over 600 episodes of Star Trek in its history. So you're bound to repeat plot lines and certain elements. So I expect that. But I felt a lot of it just didn't seem fresh. It's gotten a little bit more interesting. Although I think we're still falling into that sort of, I've seen this, I've seen that. And I want to know, how many security codes are there? Does everyone have one? Is there always one that trumps another security code on a starship? But
I don't know.
It always seems like they're playing that security code card now, ever since Wrath of Khan. and, and now Picard has one, and
well, someday we're gonna get into that Wrath of Khan thing, because we're gonna go do a series, I think, on the movies,
Yeah.
And I have a whole bugaboo about the way
And
the code is entered in that movie. But Keith Jacobson, Camera Geek, says, excellent episode. It was a fantastic episode, Mr. Pitcher.
yes. But I did enjoy it all. Though I did not realize that the bridge has an escape hatch. That was a new one on me. I'm not quite sure where you're going to escape to.
I think it's
pretty cool. One would think there's a logic to that, if you would, that there'd be escape hatches periodically throughout the ship, just in case.
Yeah, I guess I just don't think of I mean, I know they've gone into the atmosphere. They're not supposed to and crash. We've seen that, but I generally think more of escape pods. They always say, get to the escape pod, that sort of thing.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So, but overall, I've been definitely enjoying it a lot more than I thought I was going to, considering last season.
Cool. How about you, Leo? First impressions?
I quite enjoyed it, although I have to say, at the end of the episode, last week's episode, Vatic is like, Jack, come here. I'll tell you where what your mystery is. I've forgotten her exact line, but basically she was like, I'm gonna tell you what's what, and she doesn't throughout the whole episode.
And then she goes to pieces.
And I'm a little frustrated with the mystery of Jack Crusher because it feels like they keep teasing it.
Right.
And then you're like, we're going to find out. No, not this week. And I don't want to blow it all at once, but it does feel like we've got 2 episodes left. And
and I don't know whether, because I did watch the Ready Room. So I don't know whether or not the clue was from the sneak preview clip or from last night's episode. I got a little confused, but somebody says something about how the tendrils are representing his connection to different people.
I think that's from the preview.
It might be from the preview.
We said spoilers, so
exactly. Keith says that Cliff has a point. They're going to escape into the vacuum of space.
It's true. But I think it's a good way of getting rid of, people like Vatic, if you want to.
That was the only thing that annoyed him about the episode. You know what? I got to say, I didn't even think about it, to be honest with you. I thought, that was a cool way to get rid of her. So, I don't know. Yeah, interesting.
So the only thing that really annoyed me is I felt like they just kept teasing the Jack thing.
Right.
And we still, and she keeps, and he's like, listen, stop giving me double talk. It was sort of the end of the episode.
Right,
just tell me something solid, and she just it was all this
fun.
All this evasive wordplay, and I found it a little exhausting. That being said, I did enjoy the episode. One of the biggest parts of this episode is the Data storyline, the Data lore, because they need to retake the ship, and they can't do it. Jack does a little, skinwalker, bit, and he takes over one of the guys on the bridge and almost gets the code in, Picard's code.
Right.
His Admiral's, override code.
Right.
But he gets.
And right there, that I wanted to crow a little bit about that, because we had a little discussion an episode or 2 ago about whether Jack was actually controlling Sydney or not. And some people said, he's just giving suggestions. He's just suggesting the next move. And I always thought, no, it looks like he's literally controlling her actions. And as we saw in this week's episode, that's what he was doing. He's literally...
I don't think
the guy goes into almost...
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he was controlling Sydney. I think he was sort of guiding her. Whereas he took over that guy on the bridge.
He's making the exact same move she is.
Yeah.
He's doing all the flips and kicks and everything else that she is. He's just doing it off to the side. So,
maybe I don't know. It's
but this guy was definitely in a trance, being controlled. Yeah,
he was.
Hang on, I know we lost Cliff. Hang on, I'll bring him back in.
There he is. I could not hear a word you guys were saying at one point. It just all of a sudden went blank and came back, and there was no. I could see you, but I could not hear you.
Right.
So I'm
I think it was my override code. So
I want to jump to some of these comments while we've been yakking. Craig Lubin says, and escape with running lights because you want clearly to see the bodies ejected into the vacuum of space.
Of course, Craig. Where's the fun in not seeing
What's
them?
the fun in not seeing the bodies being ejected into the blackness of space?
Camera Geek says, Keith says the correction. The only thing that annoyed me about this episode was them promising to tell us what's going on with Jack, and then she didn't. Well, again, I got to the end, and I was actually talking to Angela this morning, very early in the morning, and I said, I bet Keith's gonna be pissed because we had yet again a cliffhanger at the end. So
no pun.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got a question. Maybe Leo, you may know the answer to this. The whole feeling of the way they're doing the whole Jack Crusher looks like the show 12. Did you ever see the show 12 Monkeys?
I've not, although Terry Vitalis, the showrunner, was the showrunner on that. That was the show. I watched the first episode of it. I enjoyed it, and then I just lost track of it.
Because that whole sequence with the door and the red door and all that, it looks like it's been lifted out of the visuals of 12 Monkeys.
He's using a lot of his actors from 12 Monkeys in this.
Yes.
Including Todd Stashwick, Captain.
That's why I thought it has a very. And I'll tell you, watching it on my iPad, which I had to do today, it is so darkly lit that it is
a very darkly lit.
Yeah, what? It's funny you say that because we have another viewer who complains constantly about how dark the show is, and she watches it on her iPad as well. So
I don't know if I'm watching Game of Thrones or Star Trek sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know. Keith also says the final battle between Data and Lore was his favorite part. Spot for the win.
Yes.
Spot.
And then you're good.
And Yar. We got a little bit of Yar in there, too.
Yeah, we did. Good Even though they said Denise Crosby would not be in the show.
I did like it. Sort of. Let's talk a little bit about the Data Lore, because they realized they need to do something to get back control of the ship. And, Picard says to Geordi, he's like, listen, what if we bring down the partition between Data and Lore, and if Data takes over, then he can help us. And Geordi's understandably very reluctant to do that because he's afraid that Lore will win.
Right.
And he's not wrong. That is a genuine concern, but they're sort of out of options at this point.
Right.
And I'm not. I sort of guessed what was going on in that exchange. It was a very interesting exchange. It's also a great opportunity for Brent Spiner, and the real difference between Data and Lore.
Right.
And Lore's like, on my side, I have all these trophies, and they're wonderful, they're amazing, and conquest and blah 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 power. And Data's are all like, these are my members, my friends. You're the Sherlock Holmes hat. Here's my.
And Data says, I'm the sum of my memories. My memories are what makes me, which is why it was sort of, to me, I'm like, aha, that's what he's doing. He's giving himself to Lore.
He's they ultimately do combine. That's the the idea is that because it's I don't want to say redemption, but Data generally seems to feel bad for Lore. Says it's true. I've been very fortunate. I've had friends, and I've had people, had people who cared for me. I've had a good life, and you didn't, and it's not fair.
Right.
Which is why he's giving him these things. But it also, ultimately, they have to merge. It can't be one over the other.
Right.
And once it gets out, once they've sort of combined, Data is a little different. His speech pattern is not just being able to use contractions.
Right.
Which was a, more of a plot device than a reasonable scientific theory.
Yeah.
But he's when he takes over the ship and he I forgot what it's a grandstanding protoplasm or something, what he called Vatic. There's definitely a bit of Lore's sort of saltiness in him now.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
A little bit of his sarcasm, but he's not a. He's combining the best elements of both.
Yes.
And he and Geordi have a great scene where they're sort of talking about how much they meant to each other as friends, which was a wonderful moment for both of them. So Craig says,
Technically, Allure was taken down by Spot. Got cats.
yes. That was
Craig
final
also
piece.
wanted to know when you disappeared there for a minute, Clifford. Oh, wait, not that one.
How do we know this is Clifford?
He says, "Uh-oh, did you guys tell Clifford to get off my bridge?"
Yes.
Oh,
I was. There you go. Well,
Yeah.
at least we know you're not a changeling, I guess.
well,
anyway.
do you? I know you guys have already spoken about this, but I thought the Tuvok exchange the episode before was
that was great.
Number
one, it was a great surprise. It was a great surprise to see Tim Russ because we didn't expect to see him, but also it was just really neat the way it unfolded, and then he gets that little smirk on his face once he gets found out, and it was very cool.
Definitely. Yeah. It's funny though. As I watch this show, I keep thinking of lost opportunities. At least, like I always thought a great opportunity that they could have done with this was to do something with Seven and her Borg. That maybe one of the things that she has to do is almost re-embrace her Borgness to help attack the other ship, and maybe what are the Borgs? When they take stuff over, they
assimilate.
Thank you. Assimilate the ship. I thought then, or that kind of sacrifice where she has to sacrifice her humanity to save everybody and almost re-embrace her Borg side. I thought those were kind of interesting opportunities that I might have pursued if I was writing the show.
Well, there's a lot going on in this season, and I think it's about her being accepted as an ex-Borg. Because she says, like, Captain Captain Shaw calls her, Commander Hansen.
Yeah.
She's like, my name is 7 of 9.
No, I know, but they've been playing that card now since the first season with her. I mean, or all the way back to Discovery, if you will. I mean, that's why I thought. I mean,
Voyager.
Voyager. Thank you. I just thought that. I mean, again, this is just my opinion that. Yes, I've seen this journey where she's come back, but I thought it might be very interesting that she still has this technology inside of her, and they're faced with this other ship that they can't seem to destroy that's way more advanced than they are. And I thought it might have been an interesting opportunity where she's like, look, I can go over there and I can interfere with them and start to assimilate them, but I'm going to have to accept my Borg side of myself, or figure out a way to, something in the plot.
I think that the word is so many, much like the last season, there are a lot of plates spinning. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I'm not sure they necessarily need it. It's not that it's not an interesting idea. I just think that.
And really with this particular season, I think we're going to see it bookend on the end of it. A lot of the stuff has to do with Shaw and his attitude towards the Borg, his attitude towards Picard having been Locutus, and also Seven being on his bridge. So I think that's sort of where the thrust of it is, and it's going to be him coming back to being able to reconcile that. So, just a thought.
Let's talk a little bit about Riker and Troy, who were absent last week.
That I enjoyed a tremendous amount.
Okay, now here's going to be my one uncharacteristic negative remark, and that is, I liked the scene between the two of them talking on the Shrike. Okay, yes. I enjoyed that interpersonal play, but having seen Deanna come back, it reminded me of how she was one of my least favorite characters on Next Generation, and how I felt that of all the callbacks, what they've done with her was the weakest of all the callbacks to the original characters. I don't really see a lot of. Every other character has changed and aged and gone through something, and in my opinion, she's kind of playing the character the way she always played it.
Well, I don't know. I think she and Riker have gone through the death of a child,
Right.
And I think that has affected her relationship with Riker, and so it's here's the thing is also from what I've read, they only had her for a certain amount of time because she was
I know.
a commitment to another project.
Right.
I think a theater. She was doing theater in London.
Yeah.
So I think they did a good job. I like they still have a great chemistry between the two of them.
Oh yeah.
And I like them, because they're still joking because what are you going to do? Either I'm going to laugh or I'm going to cry.
Right. Right.
And I thought the way they got her into the episode at least made logical sense.
Yeah.
Because sometimes in these sort of reunion episodes, like, oh, you're here too? Yeah. What are the odds? Yeah. But this one, it really, at least it worked in a logical sense that they would, go out and find places where they could put the screws to Picard and his crew.
Right. Craig says Worf is an unapologetic flirt, very Klingon.
Yeah, well, he was going to send them heads.
Yeah.
Of his enemies. That was passive aggressive.
I like that little sort of throwaway line when Worf is basically he's flirting, and Riker's like inappropriate.
Yeah. But it was because we forget that she and Troy and Worf were briefly involved.
Yeah.
I think it was in the 7th season.
Yeah.
And but he definitely was like laying down like some serious romantic vibes, and he's like very poetic.
Yeah.
And you could tell that Deanna's like, I know we're in trouble, but I'm really kind of enjoying this.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But I liked him, it was like him showing up from behind that changeling and just running him through. It doesn't make a lick of sense how he could have snuck up on him, but it's beautiful, and I would not change it for anything.
Well, actually, that leads me to a question: is the crew of the other ship all changelings? I couldn't quite ever understand.
I believe they are.
They're all changelings.
I think so.
Minions.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure why they're in the form they're in, because that's never really been explained. Because they're clearly in the form of a specific race, and I don't really know why. And we've never seen that race.
I think the reason is because we know who they are. We see them and we know they're the bad guys. Whereas, it gets very confusing if they're like, if they all look like humans, and they're like, are those guys from the ship, or are they the bad guys?
Yeah. I'm confused also. Sometimes they use phasers, sometimes they use knives, and it doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. Like when Raffi comes on with the knives, it's a great scene of combat, but I'm like, wouldn't she just walk on with a phaser and blast the shit out of these guys?
Well, she got to do some of her Klingon kung fu.
She got to do some of her Klingon samurai shit. Hey, Scott Taylor is here. Scott gives us a thumbs up. Scott, good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the program. Let's see if there's anything I missed in here. I don't understand this one from Keith. I'm not crying, you're crying. What was that from?
Maybe, I don't know. It could have been the Geordi data.
Is that a lore thing? A lore data thing? I don't know.
Maybe. But I did. By the way, the planet they were on, when we find out that neither one of them like where they live.
Right.
I think because they only went there for their son, because there was supposed to be some quality that planet had that might have helped him, which sadly did not happen, called Nepenthe, which we also heard in the last episode of The Mandalorian, is the oil that the droids were using.
Right.
Now, Nepenthe is an ancient Greek, possibly fictional medicine for sorrow, a drug of forgetfulness, mentioned in ancient Greek literature and Greek mythology. So it's an interesting choice for both shows. The idea of like drowning your sorrows to forget your troubles.
Yeah. Well. We have Mike Robin here today.
Michael,
hi everyone. Mike. Hey, Mike, how are you? Good to see you. Craig says, I think Keith was referring to the emotional roller coaster of Data, Lore, and Geordi. You Vulcan simps. Okay.
That is illogical.
It is illogical. Yeah.
But we've talked about a lot of stuff, but I think we did say that might have been what he was talking about. Human.
Yes, human.
Humans.
Let's see. So what else, guys? I will say that I thought the I'm trying to look at my notes here.
We got to see Picard's body.
Yeah, we got to see the body they stole, and they removed the part of the parietal lobe which was affected by Iramati syndrome.
Have they ever explained why they had Picard's body on Daystrom? I mean, they've got Kirk's body evidently too. Is it just a place you put great captains' bodies? Or
I don't know. It's maybe because Picard's body had Borg, probably still had some Borg.
That's what I was thinking. That's what
possibly. It's never been explained. But here's the thing: is like if you remember, there's a few episodes back, Data before he was completely integrated made up something about the Iramati syndrome being misdiagnosed or something to that effect.
Right.
And they now the changelings removed the Iramatic syndrome affected parts of his brain, and I'm like, what do they want with it? That's the real question.
Right.
Because while Iramatic syndrome is rare, it's not. I don't think Picard is the only one who ever had it. So why do they have to go after him to get it? Like there's still, we only have 2 episodes left. We have to find out what's going on with Jack.
Right.
And we have to find out what the plan is, because
and who's the big bad? I mean, there's the face that she keeps seeing us. That's just it felt like there was someone beyond just the changelings to me.
Oh yeah, because
totally. I mean, we've talked about this in for the past couple of weeks. Ghost Rider, as we call him, is clearly not a changeling. So, hey, Mike says that I'm assuming, Mike, you're talking about Kirk's body when he says the writers talked about that and you're not supposed to read too much into it. It was just an homage.
Yeah.
No, that was Kirk's body.
Yeah. I'm assuming he's talking about Kirk's body.
Yeah.
But so there's that and a big bad that she was frightened of.
Right.
Was frightened of. So,
and here's the thing: we know, for those of you who watch The Ready Room, which I do try to catch because I think Will Wheaton's show is great. He was not allowed to say who his guest was going to be on for next week. So I think whoever this big bad is really is a big ass surprise that they're going to drag out when we see.
Now,
and I think we're going to hear about it. I think we're going to know who it is by next week, because that's why he would have that guest on the show.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: do you think it's someone that we know from the past? In other words, is from Star Trek lore, or it's someone who has already been introduced on this show?
Totally. I mean, Leo speculated, whether he's going to proven to be right or wrong, that it might have been Tasha Yar's sister.
Not her sister, the Sela, which was her daughter.
Oh yeah.
Oh right, her daughter. Right. Oh, and as Angela says, least we not forget Hangar 12.
Yes.
I really hope, Angela, that they bring back something about Hangar 12, because I would hate to think that was just a throwaway and that you don't get anything out of that. But.
Yeah, here's the thing: there's been a lot of speculation online. People say it's Gul Dukat from Deep Space Nine, or it's they have all these theories, but it's like it has to be some. I think it will be unsatisfying if it's the main villain of another Star Trek series, even though the Changelings were the main villain of Deep Space Nine, but the Federation was involved with a war with the Dominion, and we can only presume that Picard had some, part of
Yeah,
it.
I know
Even
who
if
it
we
could
don't-
be. It could be the Grand Nagus.
That would be a hell of a thing. But I do think it needs
Well,
to.
he did cook. He had some nice lobes.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I do feel like it needs to be somebody that we've seen in TNG.
Now, Keith says he's starting to come around to the idea that the big bad guy is the Pa Wraiths.
Yeah, but that's not. I hate that if that was the case, because I think it needs to tie in to Picard and the Enterprise D crew.
I do too. I mean, as Keith follows up with that, he says, "What if next week's guest is Avery Brooks?" Well, yeah,
That would be a big surprise. But it's
or
again,
Janeway.
that feel that
well, they have mentioned Janeway.
Yeah, they mentioned her a couple times.
Yeah. But I don't know who it is, but whoever it is, I think if they don't have a strong tie to Picard, if it's just another Star Trek villain from another series that he's never met,
that would be kind of weird.
It's a guy named Phil.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, he's the guy that carries the bottles of wine. Hey guys, we got to go to a commercial break. Hold on to your thoughts, and we will be right back.
Traveler, welcome to the promenade. Humble quark at your service. Behold, Star Trek Deep Space Nine action figures. Commander Benjamin Sisko, he helps me run the station. And Security Chief Odo, very strict and sneaky for someone so honest. Here's Lieutenant Dax, and Chief O'Brien, and Major Kira Nerys. I happen to know she's crazy about me. Wonderful, aren't they? Especially this one. So handsome. Pains me to part with it, but if you pay me now, security. What a pleasant surprise.
Meteorite storm. Scotty, beam us up. Scotty! Scotty!
Don't worry, Captain. It's only a shower.
I don't need a brolly, you Bobby. Beam us up.
Captain, I haven't got the power.
Try, man, try. Power! More power!
The man's power mad. Uh-oh. Start again.
Well, he certainly hasn't got the power. Good afternoon. But you could have national power and power gen. To register for a prospectus in the generating company's share offers, call 0272-272-272.
Trade you my narrow glass for a Hura. Not in a million light years. Klingons. I think he wants your BK Star Trek glass. No way, it's a collector's item. The Klingon nipple pinch! Take it! No. Here! They took Uhura. They took my nipples.
Star Trek movie glasses, $1.99 each with any BK value meal. Collect them all before the Klingons do.
Memories
Klingons.
light the corners of my mind.
The Klingon nipple pinch. I'm astonished that was on television. I really am.
I am too. What's interesting also about that energy ad, they got Shatner and Jimmy Doohan,
right?
Is that it was a weird mix of TOS, the movies, and TNG, because Scotty's in the TNG engine room,
right?
Kirk's wearing a movie outfit,
right?
And there are a couple of red shirts in like the old, if I saw it correct.
No, so they were wearing more of that, the sort of modified, not the real old, not the original show red shirts, but sort of a modified. Where do you think that fell in? What movie do you think that fell in around? Would you say?
I don't know. It's a British television commercial.
Clearly,
and I don't know.
I think that uniform is one he wore in 5. I think that was sort of that little short jacket.
Fred says he will never think of nipples the same way again. Yeah. And what did you think of the idea that Kirk's head swaps bodies?
I feel like I've seen that before.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I thought the Klingon one was particular. I mean, I liked the Shatner, doing thing because it was fun to see them. But I thought that the one that really took the cake was the Klingons. So yeah. Anyway,
I think those were from the J.J. Abrams movie because it was in it. The date seemed to be 2009, which I think.
Yeah, it was 2009. Okay. Yeah. Well, and it makes sense because he's talking about he doesn't want to give up his Uhura glass.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I was thinking of something right before we went to the break.
Yeah.
So we said Tim Russ, made his his guest appearance or his cameo, whatever.
Yeah.
Do you think we'll see him again? Because clearly he's being held somewhere, and I don't know if they're just going to leave that dangling because she says, "I now we know he's alive because he gave you that information."
Right.
So are we going to?
I think Clifford, if we had another 5 or 6 episodes to go, we probably might.
I mean, he might show up in like a sort of a big crowd scene at the end.
Right.
Maybe,
yeah.
If they want to pay for that, because
well, they already hired him for one. They could just have shot the same day.
Yeah.
Well, they could, but again,
I
don't know. I would. I hate to think that Tuvok died in a changeling, prison or
in a
back alley,
cage.
like phaser.
Well, you know what? It's interesting because let's go back to something we got Cliff on here now, and Cliff's been binge watching. So let's think about this again. We know now that it's not that they use the transporters to get the pattern of the person they're impersonating, and then that person goes away because clearly they know he's still alive. So let's go back to this. Why are the changelings so afraid of transporters?
But it's weird because they have used transporters.
They transported them, but Vedic did not want to use transporters.
No.
So it's interesting.
Because,
do you have any thoughts on that, Cliff? Because you were binge watching a bunch of things.
It's funny. It didn't occur to me because the two that were with Roland, they transported.
Yes, they did.
Off the shuttle, and she was the one who didn't want to use the transporter,
right?
Not them.
Yeah, she makes the whole point of it. She's like, shuttlecraft, no transporters. So
maybe because they can replace you in mid transport. They'll hold your pattern buffer.
I think she's also worried that they're going to kill her.
Well, that too.
Transporter accident,
maybe.
I thought that's what she said. I didn't hear anything about replacing you. I thought it was sort of like,
No, that was just early on. We were speculating. That was one of our speculations.
An easy way to die. But the point is, they can't just replace you if they want to get information from you because they realize the one weakness is you can question, what did I drink for Christmas with you, which is what Seven tries to do with Tuvok, and you have that one moment that you think it's really him because he knows they used to play that card game,
right?
And then then they play the Voyager music, and we all get, oh, it is Tuvok. We're all happy.
Right.
Seven does the old twist.
Right.
So and then of course Tim Russ gets to do his evil
smirk.
His smirk, which was great.
So but maybe wonder, is this an opportunity? How many? They've mentioned Janeway. We've got Avery Brooks, which is I guess he'd probably be the most expensive of the lot to try to bring back. He strikes me as a guy that would want a lot of money, but
I'm not sure he's. I don't know about that, but I know that he's one of the few who have not gone back.
Yeah, he does. He's never.
I mean, he also sort of went off to sort of become Space Jesus or something.
Yeah,
right.
and
at the end of Deep Space Nine, although he says I will return, like he says that he wanted to make he made a strong point. He says I don't want to be a black father abandoning his son.
Yeah. Well, Kate Mulgrew is already in the fold because she's doing that other show.
Right.
Yeah.
They've already got her kind of back in the fold,
Right.
and they've mentioned her a few times, which is the old Chekhov, not Chekhov the show, but Chekhov the player.
Chekhov's gun, Chekhov's phaser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that you've got those two possibilities. I'm trying to think of anybody else that I would say, wow. I guess O'Brien would be somebody you could maybe throw in there for some reason. He was.
I mean, I'd love to see O'Brien if it was for for a good reason.
Right.
Because he straddles both shows.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
Worf does as well.
Right.
And
like I said, I feel like whoever the big bad is, and I'm beating a dead horse. I'll be disappointed if it's somebody not tied to the TNG sort of mythology.
I agree. I agree with you there.
Because otherwise, then it's like, I mean, there's certainly an enormous toy box to play with when you're doing Star Trek.
Yeah, right.
But it's you at the end of the day, if Batman is fighting a mystery villain and it turns out to be, the toy man from Superman, you'd be like, what?
Yeah.
It doesn't, it's not the Riddler or the Joker or Penguin or,
right.
Even one of his more obscure villains, but there needs to be a strong narrative tie. Otherwise it's unsatisfying.
Oh, I agree.
Well,
I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. All right. So we get the whole crowd back together. Now, what did you guys think of that scene where everybody's sitting around the conference table?
I never thought I'd be as excited to see a meeting as I was to see that. Because I used to go to more meetings than I cared to back in my old job, and it was always like a big snooze.
Yeah. I had regular meetings like that, all sitting around conference tables.
Well, they did do that a lot in that show. There was a lot of
there was a lot of
sitting around. So it was good, and it's nice to see them all. And again, I was going through my mind saying, is there anybody missing? Is there anybody else who needed to be around that table? And I was like, no, I think they got just about, except for
Pretty
Wesley.
Nice. Yeah. Keith says, whenever the Enterprise D crew is sitting around a table to plan, the bad guys have lost. They just don't know it yet.
And now and really they needed Data was the one that's been missing.
Yeah,
right.
And I did love watching them all, talk, and it's not a hugely long scene. It's a fairly short scene, but it was nice. It felt like finally the band is back together, like fully. Right. We're all together, and we got to let's figure out what we're going to do.
Right.
And I love Deanna sort of reaffirming her friendship with Dr. Crusher.
Right.
Because they always seem to be hanging out, doing these warm-ups in these very sexy leotards.
Yeah.
Remember. I'll give you and I'm going to jump back because we talked about how I've been binge watching. One other I thought slightly lost opportunity, which I thought they were going to do, is when they go to Geordi's museum. And I thought they had mentioned that all new starships now all communicate with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how they keep finding them.
Right.
And instead of the cloaking device, which is what they went for, I thought they were going to take Discovery. Because she's an older I thought they were going to take one of the older ships that's not sort of like pull what I would call a Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
A ship that's more analog and not on, because with the Discovery there and Seven on the bridge, I said, wouldn't that be so cool if they take Discovery,
right,
and that becomes the ship that they use.
Wait, you mean Discovery or Voyager?
They have to rebuild the Discovery
set. Voyager, yeah.
Voyager. They will have to rebuild the Voyager set.
Yeah.
Well, they had to rebuild. They had to build the set they built for Titan. I mean, they definitely.
Yeah, but that's. I mean, that's the thing. Is like building the bridge set for a show is an expensive proposition. It's a big open.
No, I know.
No, but you know what? You know what, Leo? I will say that, and I'm not so sure that Cliff's not wrong yet. And Keith is jumping to the same conclusion I am. I'm telling you, Hangar 12, Enterprise F. I bet she's not networked yet. I think we may see one of those ships come into play out of necessity, but I just don't know.
I mean, My only concern is just like on the like looking at it, because building those sets is expensive, and I know that on Discovery they've started using the same technology that they use on Mandalorian, where it's sort of like this big open area.
Because they can do that now. Look, they rebuilt the set of the original Enterprise for those episodes of the Trouble with Tribbles episode they did. And the one where Scotty comes back and he goes aboard in the holodeck. But I just thought when they mentioned the Defiant was there and they mentioned that Voyager was there, you've got Worf and you've got Seven, and I just and then by telling us that all the ships are interconnected and that was a problem, I just thought, oh, this is what they're going to do.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense, Cliff, and actually, the Defiant would probably be the cheapest set to rebuild, but Craig says, I still think that we're going to see some of the ships from Starfleet Museum in the last episode, along with the Enterprise F.
We very may well,
yeah. It's too good. They again, it's back to the Chekhov's phaser. You showed it to me in Act 1. And, and you set me up by telling me why they're all interconnected. Why give us that fact? They could have just said, "Oh, they're tracing you from some other reason." They purposely told us they're all interconnected. They all talk, and Geordi was against it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which made
No. I don't think you're wrong, Cliff. I mean, I think we may very well see that come into it now. Mike Robbins says, just use set GPT.
Oh,
I'm not sure I get that, Mike. GPT?
He's speaking in code.
He is. He's gone back to his Android form.
Riddle me this, Michael.
Lochnar. Anyway, yeah. You know what, guys? We're coming up on 15 minutes left of the program, a little bit less, actually. Any last big moments?
We haven't discussed this thing. Now that we have Deanna back, she's like, I think it's time I met your son. So she has a little begins a counseling session with Jack, who very admittedly says, you don't cultivate a charismatic deflection because you want to let people in.
Craig is answering for him. Nerd joke. Chat GPT version that builds sets via AI. Yeah.
Oh,
okay. I get that now. Yeah.
Okay. She's
anyway,
taking all our jobs.
She's doing the session, and we're finally going to go through that red door. Of course, they let us right up to the moment. And then black.
Yeah. Well, and again, anybody who saw the sneak preview for next week, we know that they do go through that door, or at least Diana goes through that door.
Yeah, she opens it up, and she's horrified by what she sees.
Yes.
She seems like she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and she's like backing up out of the room.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know what she's seen.
Right.
So, much like the viewing audience who.
I know it's annoying you, Leo. I get it.
I just feel like, especially because they left it off with like, I didn't expect her to drop it like right at the first scene.
Right.
But something
Yeah. I mean, they are dragging it out. I will say that they are.
I mean, although she keeps talking about loneliness and lack of connection, I mean, that might be a Borg thing because the Borg are all connected. They're all,
all right,
linked
Keith,
up.
I got you, Keith. Hang on. Deanna's interactions with Jack is part of why I'm thinking Power Wraiths. She mentions an ancient darkness.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. I would find that rather unsatisfying.
She does say that when she comes on board the ship, she gets a true sense of this dark energy.
Red Jack.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Winnie the Pooh shows up and starts killing everybody. Yeah.
Oh, bother.
It turns out it's the Jack the Ripper entity. It's come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting because I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping it's good.
Right.
Will Wheaton says we'll be blown away, and I'm very interested to see what that is.
Yes. Yes,
But
and
it
so
is-
does Brent Spiner. Brent Spiner says the last couple of episodes just are amazing. So we'll see. We
two
shall
more?
see. What's
There's
that?
there's only two more. It's
Yeah.
9 and 10.
9 and 10.
9 and 10. That's
Now
right.
are they talking spin-offs at all of this now with your friends?
There's a big fan movement to do Star Trek Legacy, which is what the fans have dubbed it, with Shaw and Seven of Nine, and like, you know, the LaForge daughters and
Right.
Jack.
They built the
maybe
set.
Also, apparently,
yeah.
Terry Matalas is it, because everybody's like, what about Kestra, Riker and Deanna's daughter, who we saw in the first season? Apparently, she's on an early admission program to Starfleet Academy.
Right.
So they said,
and we know
she's
that's
safe.
coming. We know that's coming. That was announced. And you know, Frakes did, you know, drop a bomb in Emmy magazine saying, "Oh yeah, we're talking about doing a kind of a next generation, you know, show with you know."
Yeah,
And
Frakes
is notorious for not being able to keep his mouth shut about stuff.
They all seem like they're up for, you know, getting back in the saddle. I mean,
oh yeah.
Well, I went to New York Comic Con last fall, and I went to the Star Trek panel where they had everybody there, including Deanna Troi, who had flown in and was a little jet lagged and kind of like your slightly drunk aunt at Thanksgiving, sort of just being very, very salty. I mean, in a nice way, but
yeah,
they all said this is the last season of Picard.
Right.
But as Patrick says, we could always do movies. So
right. Yeah.
I think they're up for it because I think they all enjoyed, because they still talk to each other. They're all still very close.
They just got a cast. They all hated each other.
Yeah.
That is always
Craig says he jumps in and agrees with Keith. Makes me think it might be Wraiths or an old exiled Q. Now, we dealt with Q last season, so that would be kind of a little bit lame.
Why would a Q need to work through? Why would a Q need to work through the changelings?
Right. Right. No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't. Yeah. Keith says this season has done such a good job of storytelling. I think that I'm confident that whatever they do, it will be satisfying, or that he will find it satisfying. Well, that's good. Yeah, I agree. I think it's been it's been the best of the 3 seasons.
Absolutely. Hands down. There's no question about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I've really enjoyed, and I don't know how you feel about this, Cliff, because you haven't been on in a while, but I think one of the things I like best, because we are people of a certain age, I like the fact that
yourself, sir.
They're playing their characters well to that. And I love all the jokes between Frakes and Picard and everything. Even Data, when he's aged him, he goes and he does his typical neck thing, and he goes, "Ow!"
They figured out a way. I said, "How are they going to?" I said, "Are they going to de-age Brent Spiner? I mean, and do that? I mean, that's kind of what they did in the first season,
right?
Or are they going to figure out a way to, let him play his age? And we, the audience, go, look, we want Data back. We want, obviously, Brent Spiner to play him. And Brent Spiner does not look like he did 40 years ago. So we will accept whatever explanation that they've given him an aging android body,
Right.
Just like they didn't give Picard a young Picard body when they put him in.
Right.
Which is what they would have done.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know what I prefer when I have my Gollum made, it's not going to be old fart Chris. Believe me, it's going to be, Keith says that there is a Dominion fleet trapped in the wormhole. And is this a attempt to escape? Maybe.
I don't know.
But it still has to tie into Jack.
Yeah.
And whatever technology or biology is in Jack is something I can't think of that we haven't ever seen before.
But they've also almost implied that Jack's not human. It's not just that he has something in him.
Right.
They've almost implied that, like, I kept waiting for Gates McFadden to say something like, he's not really our son, or our son died and I adopted this, or something.
Yeah, but I think that would be a late. I think if that was going to happen, she would have already said.
I agree with you, Lee. But they keep implying that they've been after him for a long time, and that there's something about him that's not almost human. That they're.
Yeah, I don't know what it is either. It's and we were again frustrated this week in terms of uncovering the mystery. So
yeah. I don't know, guys. We're just gonna have to wait.
I don't think there's anything. I think we've talked about everything. I think we've hit everything.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Amanda Plummer chewed up the scenery.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Hang on before you get there. Something to do with Picard's misdiagnosed aromatic syndrome. Damn it! I wish they would just tell us. Okay, but nobody has mentioned the best line in the entire episode, which was "fucking solids."
Yeah,
best line in the. I think hands down the best use of the F-bomb in the entire season. It was just hysterical. I absolutely loved it.
Also, another episode where we don't see 10 forward, which makes sense.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
although she does talk about putting snow in the mess hall.
Yes.
Gina says best line, agreed.
Yeah.
We were all, I got to tell you guys, we were all sitting there throughout the day because we all talk in chat threads. Periodically, somebody would come up and just type in "fucking solids," and everybody would be like, "Oh yeah, that was great."
I still like to send the heads. I thought that to me that was my favorite line.
Sending them heads.
I've killed many enemies, and I thought of sending them your head and sending you their heads.
It was passive aggressive.
Yeah, it was too passive aggressive. Craig Lubin says "fucking solids" is my new work chat status.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've kind
of covered it, guys. I do want to
come in under an hour.
Yeah, we did just under 3 minutes, which gives me time to remind everybody that if you're new to the program tonight for some reason and you enjoy what you saw, please make sure that you like and subscribe and hit the bell so that even though you may know that we are on Wednesdays and Thursdays every week at 8 p.m. Wednesday, currently right now, is our Mandalorian edition, where we talk about Star Wars Mandalorian. And, of course, Thursday is our classic night for Trek. We've been doing this now for 56 episodes on Thursday nights. But that reminder will let you know. So, and also, too, please check out our Patreon page. All you got to do is just look up Trek Tonight on Patreon, and you will find our page. We have multiple levels there with all kinds of swag and goodies and things you can get for supporting the program. And as I've said before, we are constantly trying to grow this show, constantly trying to take it into new areas, and support from you guys would greatly help that. But if nothing else, please like and subscribe.
Yes.
Anything else, guys, before we I felt a little bit like Edith Keeler there. You had to listen to.
Yeah, they got to make starships a little less easy to take over. I'm getting tired of everybody taking over starships.
Well, I missed that whole thing about how oh my God, his name went right out of my head. How terrible. The captain of the Titan. Yeah, Shaw. Thank you. How he was telling Seven to have blown up the turbo lift.
Yeah.
I kind of missed that somehow. I don't know where was that actually in it, or
that was a very quick scene where she lets the turbo lift up to get them out, and then of course the changelings are, I guess, pooled up in the ceiling or something like that.
Right.
I don't quite understand. I guess she could have blown it up or kept it shut and not let them into the bridge.
Well, I think he was like you could have sacrificed my life to.
But I always thought auxiliary control was the thing you wanted on a starship to override.
Well, it was TOS. Yeah,
I don't think we can have time to go down that rabbit hole.
No, we don't. But that was kind of interesting. I also liked very briefly when the guy that's being controlled by Jack and Vedic says something to him about, you should tell him to come up to the bridge, and he says, I can't do that, and she says, why? And he goes, because I'm Starfleet.
Yeah, very cool line.
It was a cool line, and you notice that Captain Shaw sort of looked at him and gave him a little nod or something. It was kind of cool.
I think she killed the Vulcan, right?
That was sad.
The Vulcan / Deltan, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I would like to have been a fly on the wall for that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? All those pheromones or hormones got dissipated around the bridge when she got zapped. So
a lot of fucking next week. So
yeah, right, exactly.
And on that note,
yes, on that note, all right, guys, I'm going to roll us out of here. Hey, Cliff, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank
you. It was great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll see you again soon. And if nothing else, we'd love to have you come back for Strange New Worlds when we do that, because
I will be there with a front row seat.
That would be great. That would be excellent. All right, guys, I'm going to roll. Have a great week, everybody. Live long and prosper, and we will see you next week. Same time.